So this is a quick video to say how I've got on with the parts from the first project, and I've been carrying on with some of these bits while I've been watching the videos to the next project. So previously I just had some parts in cardboard, and now I was making some stuff with this stuff I found, which is sort of like A4 sized sheets of wood. Don't know if you can see it very close up, but it's like a ply, so it's got a nice finish on the surface, but there's some probably less good wood in the middle. But it's quite nice and soft and easy-ish to work with. So in terms of the parts I've made and the changes, I've gone with this much larger motor that I described earlier, and as you can see in the middle there's a similar kind of structure. This motor is directly driving this now. Because this is a worm gear motor, it can run at a much lower speed, so it's driving this rotor directly, and there's stationary parts above and below. The front part has a hole here for discharging skittles. There's a bit of reinforcement on the bottom there just to try and support the extra weight of this quite large motor, relatively large anyway. So the shaft comes up through there, and as you can see there's the hole where the skittle would go into is lined up there. So skittles should fit in there quite nicely, and at about 1.5 volts, this motor is rated for 12 volts, but at about 1.5 volts it runs very slowly, so it should discharge one skittle. I think it was every 2 minutes it went round. So that's that part. And I've tried all kinds of things for getting the skittles to go into here nicely without getting jammed up, but there are lots of ways that they ended up getting jammed up. So I tried making this. I haven't fully tested it yet, but the idea is that this part here is 15 by 15 millimeters. It's about the size of a skittle. So I'm going out of shot again. So if I balance a skittle in there, you can see that that's the size of that. So the idea is that you've got this part which guides them all down into the centre. Oh, skittles just fallen out. And then you get like a little stack of them. They'd end up sitting on top and then dropping down into the hole at the bottom. So this is the first time I've properly tested this. I'll just tape it in place, so I don't accidentally knock it over and ruin the whole thing. So that's the idea, is that that would sit on top there. And then skittles go in the top. There'll be a small stack of skittles, and hopefully, so that's built up to the top now, hopefully more skittles at the top would not jam up quite as badly, or at least you could give them a knock and then there'd be a little stack of them there ready to fall into the hole as it comes around. If I increase the voltage on this a bit to 6 volts, which is half of its nominal running voltage, it should go around a bit more quickly, and hopefully the skittles will pop out over time. I think when they're above this part here, they seem to fall in quite nicely. It's all a case of getting them aligned. The thing is, if I had a whole packet of skittles or something in just a tube where they're all stacked one on top of another, all the way up to the sky sort of thing, it would be a pretty long tube. So it's all about whether this sweets in the top of this hopper would then fall down into the bottom well enough. I don't really want to run it any faster than this, just so it doesn't get jammed as it's sweeping around and catching them at the bottom there. Move it so you can see that they're all falling out the bottom there. Ooh. Delivered. So the other idea is the rest of this would all go inside a sort of a box really that would just surround the whole thing on four sides. And I made it like this so that these parts could be easily disassembled and taken apart and replaced if any bit got, say it got jammed up and a bit got broken or it got a bit dirty, you could always replace these parts. And I wanted to make this sort of free, so the idea was that the sides would be here, for instance, and there'd be a part up this side as well, and on all four sides. And then I'd wedge in some of these little blocks. Don't know if you can see those, they're just little cubes. So I'd put those in the corners at a certain height that I wanted this platform to be at, and then the bottom of this platform would sit on top of that. So I could take that part out and later on just slide that down inside the tube and it would rest in the right place, and then I could put this hopper part that could slide down on top of that as well. So these two parts would be independent, they wouldn't be stuck together. One bit would go down and then the next bit would go down on top of that. And if I had a battery pack in there, I could just sort of store that underneath this part, so the battery pack could drop in first, then this part could go down and sit on the little blocks which are at four corners of the tube that it's sitting inside, and then this bit drops on top. And it would be quite nice, now we're allowed to do something to do with electronics, is I might be able to, if I have any problems with it jamming up here, I might be able to go forwards and backwards if I included an Arduino in the control or something like that. Then it gives more options for automating things like that. And also I could slow down the speed of this as well by just running the motor intermittently, or by running essentially a pulse width modulated signal from the Arduino to the motor, which means that the motor can be powered at full voltage but only very intermittently, which is a better way to run the motor but still give a decent amount of torque at the motor. I'm not sure if these sweets have stopped dropping out now, so they might have got jammed in the hopper part at the top. So I'll just right. So I guess the answer is that they still get jammed. You might need to give it a tap every now and then, but hopefully it'll still keep going around and picking them up and dropping them all out. I'm not sure if there's any other ways of stopping this hopper getting jammed at the top. It's just there's a bunch of things there, and because they're quite big particles, they're just likely to get stuck. So I don't know if there'd be some way of agitating them a little bit at the top. Maybe a vibration motor or something that goes off every now and then to just agitate them a little bit and shake it all up and make sure that they're building up a stack inside this part here. Seems to be generally working quite well, and definitely better than the cardboard prototype or when I had a bottle on top of here I tested previously. They just get jammed up there, so you get 2 or 3 of them all jammed in the hole. And there were some configurations of that where it's quite stable. They'd sit there happily and none of them would fall into the hole in the rotor. But anyway, this seems to be working, so I think I'll stop there. Thanks for watching.